There's a light in the sky, rising in the air. There's a feeling so strong. It's time to light the fire, like a bright shining light. Learn, getting more out of life. Learn, sharing time with friends, feeling so strong.
Yes, hello, welcome to the House of Wellness. Great to be with you as always. My name's Luke Darcy and Joe Stanley, Rachael Finch and Hines. Welcome to the whole team.
Hey guys.
Thanks for having us.
Look how cosy you look in that knit.
Yeah, thank you, mate.
Very dapper.
Pretty warm this morning, Joe.
I think you look great.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I want to kick off today with an event that's very close to my heart, and that is the match this weekend between the Saints and the Tigers at Melbourne's Marvel Stadium in a special charity event named Maddie's Match. It's to honour 26-year-old Maddie Rewalt, who passed away from a very rare blood disease, aplastic anemia, in 2015, Joe.
Yes, and Maddie's older brother, Saints star Nick Rewalt, was by her side the whole time until she finally lost the fight. Incredibly, Nick and the family turned their grief into action and launched Maddie Rewalt's Vision, a charity dedicated to finding new treatments and hopefully a cure for bone marrow diseases.
Yeah, Maddie's Vision has already raised an incredible $7 million that's helped important medical research in the field. The Rewalt family's legacy in this space, honouring their sister and daughter, is quite remarkable, Joe. It's a fantastic event.
Oh, it's just the best day. Everybody turns up in Maddie's favourite colour, purple. It's so wonderful to see the sea of purple around the ground, watching Saints take on Richmond. I believe it's the fourth year, Darcy, this has been going on.
Yeah, and the Tigers last year came out on top, 54-point win. So the Saints, Nick's team there, you can see we're looking for revenge. And one thing we know, Joe, is we won't see much of the team colours, as you said. It's all about the purple for Maddie's Vision, which has become a great tradition.
So good to watch, so good to be a part of as well. It's just amazing to think about all the millions of dollars already raised for the charity and the people's lives that have been improved because of Maddie's Vision.
And some other famous sports faces have actually been getting involved, raising much needed funds. I mean, we had Beck Danaher in here the other week, raising awareness for motor neuron disease. And then there's Jim Stein with the Reach Foundation, helping youth reach their full potential. And of course, you've got Glenn McGrath, who has got the McGrath Foundation in memory of his late wife, Jane. So it's really powerful stuff.
It's a great point you make, Hinesy. And I think of Ricky Ponting and Shane Warne and Steve Ward, to name a few. A huge amount of respect for those guys to give up their time, energy and passion into creating their own charity. What a legacy that is.
Absolutely. And we should be really grateful that they do that because they make such a difference. But unfortunately, there's always work to be done. So we've got to keep plugging away and doing what we can. And there's lots you can do for Maddie's Vision.
Our stories of inspiration and courage continue after the break as we look at the life-saving work of the Melbourne Alfred Hospital Burns Unit. That's next. Welcome back to the House of Wellness. Joe, I was saying the other day, there seems to be more fires in homes than there once was.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've wondered if that's because we're seeing it more on the news, so it seems like there's more fires. But whatever the reason, or if that's in fact the case, the fact is most accidental house fires are caused by what they call an unattended heat source. And I can't even begin to imagine how many properties and lives have been saved because of smoke detectors.
Yeah, it's National Burns Awareness Month, so your attention does turn to the thousands of Australians who suffer burns each year. In fact, it's around 200,000 people, and Rach, thankfully most of those burns are at the minor end.
Exactly. We actually had an incident when Violet was 2 where she put her foot into a boiling hot cup of tea. Oh. She had a sock on as well, so it took her a while to actually register the heat source. Yeah. And we spent the next 6 to 8 weeks going in and out of hospital, getting the dressings changed. Wow. And that was probably one of the hardest things, the hardest parts of my parenting so far. And I can't imagine what it's like for a severe case of a burn, like just the...
Well, it's interesting you should say that. Severe cases are when 20% or over 20% of your total body surface area are burnt, and that makes up for about 8% of the total cases. Now, interestingly, younger people and older people are most at risk, and that comes to water, which is just too hot. And then unattended appliances is also in there as well, and also accelerant fires, which is really serious stuff. Now, whatever the cause, some people are unfortunate enough to suffer severe burns, and the road back is tough. both physically and psychologically.
On New Year's Day 3 years ago, motorbike enthusiast Terry was riding along a mountain road.
All of a sudden, car came around the corner, and there was nothing to do but clip him. And I had about 2 seconds warning. I held on and hit his wheel, glanced off his wheel and bounced back into the curb. But I broke the fuel tank with my body, and fuel was all over me. And then it went bang, and off I went, and I burnt for a minute and a half probably. And I looked down at my hands, and it was all droopy skin, you know, flopping off the bottom of them, and I lay on the ground. And then it was a case of breathing. For an hour, I just tried to breathe. I thought, I've got to keep breathing. If I stop breathing, I'll die here.
60-year-old Terry was transported to the Alfred hospital with 35% full-thickness burns to his hands, arms, stomach, neck and legs, and was given a 5% chance of survival.
50 years ago, I would have died in the hospital without the modern technology they offered me. The nursing they gave me was fantastic. Without them, I wouldn't have survived.
After a week in intensive care, Terry was moved to the burns unit.
Full thickness burns aren't sore, and I didn't know this at the time, but because you lose all your nerve endings, they're not painful at all. What was painful is where they pull all the skin off to redo the burns, and they strip skin off every part of my body that wasn't burnt. My whole back, they peeled the skin off. It was bright red, like the worst sunburn you've ever had. Went for 3 weeks, and it was really painful. These are the sort of scarring you have to deal with. They had to repair that area, and they used skin from other parts of me where I hadn't been burnt, and that leaves keloid scars, which are very itchy. That skin is then cut up into little blocks with mesh on it to stretch it, and placed over other areas where I need skin. You end up with that result, which is a little bit numb, but perfect grout, holds the blood in and keeps the dirt out.
Terry underwent over 10 surgeries, with the most major being the amputation of his fingers.
So I sort of kissed them goodbye, and then they did the operation, and that was a bit of a moment. I looked at them and thought, oh, well, that's my new hands, better than it could have been. And I was a lucky bloke because my injuries were getting better every day, and that makes a big difference to your psyche.
Terry stayed in the burns unit for nearly 3 months.
I seem to have a lot of family come and visit. And as good as the hospital is, you still need family to come in and feed you occasionally, because they'll bring food in, but my hands are wrapped up, and the nurses haven't got time. And I'm looking at the food going, well, I suppose I could throw my face at it and get some, but having my sister and my brother-in-law, my partner to come in and feed me, but I wished I hadn't have done that to them. I'm glad me dad and mum didn't see it. That I wouldn't have liked. And I wish my kids hadn't have seen it, but it's the way it is. And they've been fantastic. And they all grew up very quickly, I must say, especially a young boy. He grew up in 4 hours. Yeah.
Terry decided that he would not let his injuries hold him back and started to restore his beloved aeroplane.
I couldn't really use my fingers for about a year and a half. They're too sore. I could do odd jobs, but doing up shoelaces was hard work. But it's been the last year I've been able to get back to work more. But that's all right. It slows me down a little bit, but not too much. And I use a pair of pliers occasionally, and I drop nuts occasionally. And 4 or 5 times I do it to get the nut on sometimes.
And since his accident, Terry is back doing all his favourite hobbies.
I do scuba diving, I fly aeroplanes, I ride motorbikes, and in all those sports, you are not looking back. You are looking forward to the next 5 seconds. The bit behind you is irrelevant, and I'm living my life like that. There's no point looking back. It's done. I don't need to go there. That's just the way I am, and I can imagine it's not the same for everybody.
What an incredibly courageous man, and I love that outlook from Terry, always looking forward. No point in looking back. That is so inspirational.
We could all take a leaf out of that book. I think we've all complained about things which really, in the end of the day, do not matter. I felt really emotional watching that because his energy and his resolve was incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, and how beautiful to see that support and that connection from his family, from the community around him. I mean, it's just, I had goosebumps.
Yeah.
It's
And the work that the nurses and the people do that bring him back to health and back to life, I mean, you've got to have the courage to do what he did, but they're incredible. Those people, day to day, dealing with people in that situation, you can't thank those people enough, can you?
No, absolutely.
so lucky.
Yeah, Terry mentioned the incredible work done by the staff at the Alfred Hospital. They are special people. You'll meet one of them right after this.
Before the break, we heard Terry's incredible story of pain and survival after a horrific motorbike accident. He was treated at Melbourne's Alfred Hospital, and as part of Burns Awareness Month, I visited their burns unit to get a glimpse of what they do.
Dr. Heather Cleland is a renowned plastic surgeon and head of the burns unit here at the Alfred Hospital in Melbourne.
This is the burns unit. It's a statewide service for Victoria, and we admit virtually all of the patients who are burnt in Victoria who sustain a severe burn. We also see a lot of people with less severe burns for various treatments, but you know, the key reason for our existence is these people with the most severe injuries.
One of those patients is 59-year-old Philip, who was admitted to the hospital 4 days ago after throwing accelerant on a fire.
So there was a question about whether Philip had had an inhalation injury where you inhale hot flames and
into your face.
Yeah.
And if that happens, sometimes your airway can swell some hours after the event just with the response. So
there was some burning in my nose, but it didn't go down my airway.
So he, yeah.
You're mighty lucky there's no damage to those airways. That's...
I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
Philip's got a long road ahead of him. He'll spend the next part of his recovery here in the treatment area, where all the rooms are individually heated.
Because your temperature regulation is shot when you have an extensive burn, as you can imagine, and that's really to stop their body temperature dropping precipitously when they have these extensive procedures and when they're in the bath.
The bath is a crucial step in the treatment process.
This is the bathroom.
Okay.
The traditional treatment for burns patients really for many years since the Second World War was to regularly bath them, day after day, week after week, until all of the burnt tissue sort of floated off in the bath, and then you had sort of raw areas that then were skin grafted. Modern burn treatment, we still use these baths, but we don't use them as a debridement mechanism. We operate early, we actively cover the wounds with various bioengineered skin substitutes, or else skin graft them straight away. And then once the grafts are taken and their donor sites are healing, we get them in the shower or the bath and just help to clean everything up.
So if we're not using these baths in the initial treatment, what's the process?
Well, the initial wound management depends very much on how deep the burn is. Sometimes if a patient's got a very extensive superficial burn, we'll take them to the operating theatre and give them a good scrub.
Yep.
And then we would put a temporary skin substitute on that will replace that very superficial barrier layer of the skin that's lost.
Okay.
And then the wound will heal up underneath, and that superficial nylon silicone skin engineered product will lift off and the wound will be healed underneath.
It's not every day that the burns unit opens its doors, so I feel really, really privileged to have seen just a small part of the incredible work that they do there. And I'm really, really pleased to welcome here today to the show burns nurse Hannah Menzies and acting commander of the CFA, Andrew Smith. Welcome. Now, Hannah, when I was having a tour around the Alfred, I noticed that the patients were kept in their room, but then a lot of the treatments were happening elsewhere. Can you explain why that separation is so important?
Yeah, it's the patient's room's sort of considered a safe haven, a place that they can go back to and rest. So dressings, procedures and often therapy are done away from that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it gives them that peace of mind, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where they can associate their room with peace and quiet,
Yep.
and anything else that might be quite traumatic is elsewhere.
That's right.
And I can't believe the remarkable work you do. I found that really confronting, to be honest with you, watching that bit of vision. What are some of the worst examples you've had to deal with? You've been doing it for 13 years.
Yeah, I've been around burns for, well, nearly 20.
Yeah.
I worked in intensive care before, and that's how I got my exposure to burns patients. It's not the size of injury for me, it's about the individual. Every patient's different. You know, that impact that it has on you as a person is sort of where it's at for me. And my job, I know I'll be done when it doesn't affect me in that way. It's that sort of personal impact that really touches your heart.
Hannah, I noticed that you can take there's an average of 9 patients in there at any one time.
Yep.
Can you tell me what some of the most common treatments are and what most of the common things that you're seeing in there?
Yeah, in terms of injury types?
Yeah.
So 60% of our patients have flame-related injury, and of that 60%, 88 of those are young men. So significant number of our patients, unfortunately, are males. We do often dressings, procedures, wound care, skin grafting, operating. It's quite variable depending on how big the burn is and what sort of treatment's needed.
We're seeing a lot of those developments now in skin grafting and new skin technology. What are some of the things being used now than, say, 10 years ago were unheard of?
Yeah, so biological dressings and bioengineered skin substitutes are the
That can mimic the skin.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
We've got a substitute that we're using at the moment that's purely polyurethane, and there's no sort of biological component to that. Okay. So there's all sorts of different ranges of skin substitutes that we use. One of them's a pig collagen-based skin substitute, so it acts like a biological dressing and covers the wounds, dampens the pain response, improves healing times, gets people out of hospital quicker, minimises risk of infection.
And Andrew, you respond to house fires and, well, so much more than that. And so you're there, right, first response when someone has been burned, which I imagine is the crucial moment for them. How do you treat them while you're waiting for the ambulance?
Basically, it's no different than any normal first aid person would get the education on. We'd treat them with water, cold running water for 20 minutes. But the main thing is when we use the cold water on them, we're actually lowering their person's core body temperature. So we treat the patient by cooling the burn and warming the patient until the ambulance arrive, and then they can give further pain relief if that's required.
I imagine there's a huge need for comfort for that person
There
at
is.
that time.
yeah, because they're in shock,
Yes.
and they don't know what's going on. They could be in a lot of pain, and we can only do so much until the ambulance arrive.
Right.
Yeah.
And now the CFA is working with the Royal Children's Hospital and the Alfred Hospital as well with a preventative program. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's called the Victorian Burns Prevention Partnership. It started in about 2004. And we've been working together, and it's a bit unique. We were looking for some data in relation to people we were missing in the community, and we realised that there was a number of people getting burnt, particularly flame-related, from the Alfred Hospital. So it was a way of bringing the hospitals and the emergency services together to work on a burn prevention message out there to stop all the people getting burnt and stop them going to the basically putting Hannah out of a job.
In a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. Yeah.
Coming back to you, Hannah, we hear the term first, second, third degree burns a lot. Can you actually explain what that means?
I can, and it's often sort of a misunderstood terminology. In the States, they name it first, second, third degree. In Australia, we tend to name the layer of the skin that's been damaged. So epidermal burns are your true sort of sunburns. They're quite dry. And then you move into the dermal burns, and depending on which layer of the dermis has been damaged, depends on whether you need skin grafts, which is sort of like the ultimate gold standard surgery of skin replacement.
Andrew, can I ask, we were talking earlier about unattended home appliances. Obviously, that's playing a huge part. Are we doing enough when it comes to fire safety, and what more could we be doing?
Just making sure that obviously smoke detectors have been a big asset to us in the community, and making sure that they work properly.
Yeah.
And also cooking or kitchens are a main source of where fires start. So making sure we haven't got unattended cooking, and we know what to do, and making sure that we've got a smoke detector, making sure that we've got fire blankets and a fire extinguisher in our home. And if you are cooking with oil, and we're hoping people don't, but if they are cooking with oil and it does catch fire, we encourage people not to pick the hot pot up that's on fire and try and take it outside. Hannah sees the result of that at the hospital.
Andrew, Hannah, thanks so much for joining us in the House of Wellness and for the incredible life-saving work that you both do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, Rach gets a spellbinding workout from a so-called body magician. Looking forward to seeing this one. Can't wait for that, Rach. That's next on the House of Wellness.
Here's a winter warmer you'll want to make again and again. My shepherd's pie with its saucy, deeply flavourful filling and creamy, crusty potato topping is a timeless classic. To begin, heat BioGlan organic coconut oil and sauté leek and garlic. Before adding a spice mix of paprika, cumin, coriander and turmeric. We add lamb mince to the pan and brown it a little before the carrots, tomato and passata join the mix. While that's simmering away, make the topping. Mash sweet potato with BioGlan organic coconut oil. It's rich in medium-chain triglycerides that are easily digested and burnt for energy and do not raise cholesterol. Spoon the sweet potato topping onto the cooked lamb, sprinkle with chia seeds and bake until crunchy. Enjoy at the end of a long cold day out in the paddock or wherever you've been working. And yes, there'll be seconds.
Welcome back to the House of Wellness. Now, Rach, we all know how magic a great workout can be, but you have seriously taken it to a whole new level this week.
I did. I had an incredible experience. So a friend of mine recommended a guy named Bruce Scott. Now, he's an former elite gymnast, and he calls himself the body magician. So I had no idea what he did, what his philosophy was, but what I can say that is his unique approach is literally turning exercise on its head. Take a look.
This is Bruce, or AKA the Body Magician. And rather than making people disappear, he takes them to new heights.
Other than a little bit odd, how's this actually feel
feels
in
awesome.
your body? Yeah.
So good.
Bruce's path to all this started at the age of 10, when he was diagnosed with viral meningitis, Ross River fever, and arthritis in every one of his joints.
Gravity's doing all of the work for us.
Unable to go to school for 3 years, his mum looked to alternatives to relieve Bruce of his incredible pain.
Someone at her work had suggested Tai Chi, and it just so happened that my very first ever Tai Chi teacher was the real deal. Like, he was Mr. Miyagi.
With the combination of Tai Chi and Swedish massage, Bruce's life was completely changed.
Within 6 months, I was boxing and playing rugby. And let your head just drop.
As a young adult, Bruce moved to Japan and studied Aikido, a Japanese martial art.
And when I came back, I was really interested, like, how can I create something from this? And I just kept drawing these 3 interlocking circles of Tai Chi, Qigong, massage, and martial arts. And from there, bodywork gave me the opportunity to share all of them in one space. And then other people started to call me a body magician. I was like, I like the sound of that.
Bruce uses gravity to help the body completely relax.
What are you aware of? How did your body feel?
Just like more relaxed.
Yeah, cool, eh? Like, we didn't even do anything.
Yeah.
Relaxation is something that we've forgotten how to do with the cycles of bills and traffic and pressures and all of this stuff that we get so caught up in. When that starts to affect our ability to internally regulate, then that's the root of disease. Being able to help people find a deep sense of relaxation, then things start to make sense at a different level. Relaxation helps people do everything better.
What was going on there?
Don't you laugh?
I think we need almost a warning to our viewers. What was going on there? That is staggering. I can't get my head around that.
As funny as it looks, that was one of the best treatments, the best therapy sessions I have ever had. I booked in for Saturday. I'm going.
You're going back again, which again is quite extraordinary. In context, you've never been to a physio, you've never been to an osteo, you've never been to a chiro, so you haven't got a lot of reference point.
I have seen a lot of massage therapists, a lot of acupuncture, so I am aware of that tension release in the body. But But this just really took it to a whole new level because you've got gravity working at its best. You're suspended from his feet. Everything is literally just dropping to the floor. You've got to be really open to it, Das, though.
Yeah.
You can't go into the experience tight and not wanting to actually feel it and be open to change. But yeah, it completely changed my whole experience.
It was quite incredible to watch. I didn't quite know. Gerald and I were a little bit nervous. We didn't know what was going to happen next. But I got to ask, Rach, OK, so was anything painful? But also, I'm curious, when you first walk in, how does he assess you?
Yeah, there was no pain or discomfort whatsoever. When you first go into the session, he gives you what is the world's best 10-minute foot massage.
Oh, hello.
So he gets you in a really relaxed state straight away. Then he does a lot of talking, a lot of questions, interrogates, what's going on inside your body. He did ask me a key question, which I thought was really interesting. He said, if you had a magic wand, what would you like to change within your body? What is something that you would want to create? So that I found was really interesting, and he works from a mind, body and soul perspective. So it's not just a physical ailment, it's connecting everything.
So I tell you what, you wouldn't want to be gassy. No. But now, Rach, are you going to go back? What is the verdict? Is it going to be part of your beautiful routine?
Booked in on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
Definitely.
It's getting serious between you and Bruce.
He does. Don't tell my husband.
No one's happier about that than Bruce, I can promise you right now. Well, Heinzie, you keep telling us you've got all the moves as well, and you're standing next to your own magician, the great Gerald. What herbs have you got for us today?
Well, Das, we talked last week about turmeric and its effect on gut activity, but I want to focus today on the role of turmeric in joint inflammation. So it's a wonderfully powerful herb, been around since the 13th century, lots of tradition, very effective.
Now, mate, I love turmeric. I cook with it in my recipes, soups, my broths. I stain my kitchen bench with it even.
Good, yes.
Tell me about why it is so good for us.
Turmeric, Heinzie, interacts with the cascade of inflammation that happens when inflammation starts in a joint.
Okay.
So there are various chemicals released within the joint, and if you can interfere with that, which is what we do medically with non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, so it mimics that sort of pathway, particularly when it's mixed with black pepper to help the absorption of the powder itself.
And that's what we've got here. We've got a little bit of a combination of the turmeric and the black pepper. Now, you mentioned something about joint pain. Joint pain is on the tip of all of our lips. We're all experiencing it in some way. Is there any other natural remedies that we can look at for joint pain?
How often do we talk about herbs, Heinzie, in a group? Synergistic effects, so all helping each other. Now, the classic with turmeric and black pepper is boswellia, or with a lovely name of Indian frankincense, really good for inflammation. And the other is a warming herb called ginger. Now, when you put those things together, you've got a package that's useful in any sort of arthritic issue, osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, any joint issues.
So a good friend of mine's actually experiencing some knee pain at the moment. If I was to give her some advice, what would you say? How would she implement it?
You take it in a combination, as we've just mentioned. The wonderful part about these things are that they can be taken as a single once-a-day herbal combination. I know you like to play with these things, but I just hope your fingers are clean.
They are.
And they're usually as well in a vegan or vegetarian capsule. So it takes a lot of the risk away with taking them. So really, it's just an important thing to look at the combination, probably, rather than the herb on its own.
All right. Now, in fear of turning orange myself or yellow, can you overdo and OD the turmeric?
I've been worried about you for a while, but no, you don't. You don't, because you don't need to overdose. You don't need to have a lot because you've got this combination. So when it's in combination, it all is in balance. We're looking at a balanced way of reducing inflammation in joint pain.
You are good. I'll give you that much. If I could wrap you up and bundle you into a ball and take you everywhere for my knowledge, I would. Thanks, Gerald. And the A to Z of vitamins is brought to you by Go Healthy, New Zealand's #1 premium supplement brand, now available in Australia.
Welcome back. Well, this year is powering through, and while it's not quite Christmas or New Year's yet, it is the start of a brand new financial year, Rach. And for most of us, that means tax time and perhaps a little bit of stress about our spending habits in the past 12 months. But also a fresh opportunity to clean out the ledgers, look at your financial health, and here to help make that happen is financial guru Effie Zales. Welcome to you, Effie.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, welcome.
Hello.
Effie, Australia's reported to have some of the highest personal debt levels in the world. How big a problem do you see this as being?
It's a huge problem. I mean, not only are we not getting our own budgets right, but the government clearly isn't getting its budget right. And when we're looking right now, we've got record low interest rates, and you would think we'd be happy, wouldn't you? If you've got a mortgage, when the rates go down, what do? You get happy.
Excited.
We're happy.
Yeah.
No, we're happy, yeah.
But we shouldn't be, and we're feeling that. And the reason why rates are going down is because the economy's not churning nicely. And we are in the hugest mess we can be personally, a lot of debt. We're feeling the pinch. And I would suggest right now is the time that we should be looking. I know it's end of, financial year, but this is the perfect time to knuckle down on that debt because we're one of the highest in the world. Most of that debt is home debt, but it's also personal debt.
Yeah, they were saying that on average Aussies have over $250,000 in debt, and I guess if you've got a mortgage, that makes sense. What are some of the mistakes that we're making as a whole with our money and our finances?
Yeah, it depends, I guess, what age group you are in because we all react to money differently. And the thing I find interesting, I mean, I've written a book and there's a chapter in there that says, I earn 150K, why am I still broke? So no matter whether you earn 150K, 60K, 70K, we're all feeling the pinch.
It is difficult to manage and we all struggle with it, I think, from time to time, but we don't ask for help. Why do you think there is this fear, Effie, around asking for financial advice?
It's not the most sexiest topic.
No.
We actually don't have money conversations, and the number one reason people do separate, it's not because of infidelity, it's not because they snore in bed, it's because we don't talk money. And I think we need to stop that. I know with my girlfriends, it's not off bar. We can have a glass of wine over lunch or something, and they will grill me. They'll say, like, how can you afford that when I know, you want to fix up your house? What are you doing?
It's interesting you should say that, Effie, because I think hidden expenses are one of the things that we struggle with. I always buy snacks when I've got food at home. What's one of the other hidden expenses that people experience and how best to manage them?
So that's that discretionary spending. And and if you don't have that under control, as soon as you walk out of the house, you're going to blow $20 easy, $30, whatever.
Yep.
And it's interesting, we do have these triggers. So we have triggers that cause us to spend. I know my trigger is that if I've had, say, a really bad day, I just think, I might get something to cheer me up, whether that's a Bellini or...
So you're spending to feel better, but then in turn, financial stress and debt is harmful to our mental health. So it's this cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. And you see people that start to earn more, they're no better off than when they had less. So ask yourself this question, when I was earning only 20, why am I still living on the borderline when I'm earning 60?
Yeah.
The more you earn, the more you spend. Actually, the best tip I ever received was when I got my first job from Paul Clitheroe, and that was, Effie, it's not what you earn that counts, but what you spend.
Effie, great advice for you on how to curb our spending and get our house in order as we head into the end of the financial year. Thanks for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it. We'll continue our money makeover after the break with tech guru Vanessa Toholka bringing in the latest apps to help us stay in the black. Welcome back. You're watching The House of Wellness and we're talking money today. It's the one thing that we all struggle with at times. And Hinesy, I want to ask you, what's your one weakness with money? What do you blow your money on?
Well, mate, if it's not spending money on Gerald Quigley memorabilia, I am usually spending it on cactus. I love them, big and small, little ones, pot plants in the kitchen. And I know I've got too many, but I see one and I'm like, I need that cactus.
That's funny because in our household, having a cactus in the home is bad luck.
Really?
Because my husband's Russian, it's a Russian traditional thing.
Ooh,
so
no cactus for
no
Russians.
spending money on Russians for me.
Okay.
My biggest thing is food and health products. You just have to ask my husband, saunas, acupuncture, etc., etc.
Yeah, holidays get me. Can't get enough of that. Now, what about you, Vanessa, who's our expert from all things tech? Are you a bit of a spendthrift or what do you tend to spend your money on?
Look, I tend to be pretty economical, but I am really tempted by anything musical, whether it's gigs or buying the media. I'm still not 100% a streamer. I like to own the music.
Who's your favourite band, Vanessa?
Oh,
Come
God,
on, tell
no,
us.
that's way too
Are you
difficult.
sure?
Yeah, no.
But I hear you
couldn't
love a
possibly
musical.
choose.
You love a Broadway musical.
I do. I have very diverse tastes.
Oh, la la,
There you go.
ta-da.
I want to know, Vanessa, is there an app that can pay off my mortgage?
Yes,
Not
please.
paid off, but it can certainly help you manage your mortgages. And I think that everyone should have some sort of budget management app out there. There's a great one in Australia by an Australian team called Pocketbook. It's super popular. It'll automatically categorise up to 80% of your transactions when you sync it up to your accounts. And it'll keep track of what you're spending. You can set targets.
It's
It'll
nerve-wracking.
Well, this is one of those apps you should keep your alerts on because it'll say if you've gone over your safety spend and really keep you on track.
Are any of you guys a little bit like prefer not to look? What I can't see, I better not know. Like
Exactly. What about people that live in house sharing circumstances with a partner, where they're sharing this finances? Because I would imagine budgeting then, is quite tricky. So ways to organise that.
Look, I think some people don't want to start the conversations around budgets as well. Splitwise is an app that's really famous for helping people who are co-budgeting for things, whether it's a group holiday or a share house utilities budget. Splitwise is an amazing way to make it really easy and, diplomatic to sort of nudge people like, hey, you need to put in on this.
Hey, one of the biggest startups in Australia in recent time has been Afterpay, and the millennials are going mad for this. What are your thoughts on that one?
Look, I think that it's a very practical solution for people who do need to split payments out over time, but you've got to be so careful putting that in. It's just like having a credit card, and it's easy to forget that you've assigned all of this money away ahead of time and just keep spending the pay packet as it comes in. So be really cautious of those sort of
I was going to say, do you think there's a risk? When we were growing up, we were using tangible money, in the real flesh, real stuff. These days, everything is so digital. Do you think it's having a difference and people are spending money easier because it's not as physical?
They've done some studies on how it affects us psychologically and also the behavioural economic side of these things. You're absolutely right. It is a phenomena. However, the reality is we are moving towards, cashless payments.
They reckon Sweden's almost there, that no cash at all in the Swedish economy, and Australia's, on the path to not being too far behind, Vanessa.
That's right. And when I go for a run, I know I want to minimise how much I'm carrying. So if I can pay with my phone and just have that phone on me for music and for everything else, why wouldn't I minimise?
Thank you, Vanessa. There's enough things to stress about in life, and money shouldn't be one of them, Rach.
Exactly, and neither should a blemish or a pimple. But when your face breaks out in full-blown acne, the emotional distress can actually go way beyond ruining a first date or making you feel self-conscious. Put simply, it's just not fun.
I guess we see acne in all groups of people, and the frightening statistic is 85% of Australians have acne in their lifetime. Nowadays we know that stress can play a huge role, and we certainly see that in people, for instance, when they have stress during exam times, physical stress that can cause a problem, and we know that when people are stressed, that raises their stress hormones, and in turn that can turn on their acne oil glands. Now we're finding out that maybe there are some dietary factors, but maybe not in everybody. So certain people will have dietary triggers. There are some people who get acne and they have the perfect diet, and there are other people who maybe have an imbalance for what we think of is an insulin growth factor. So that's a very fancy way of saying if you have processed food. So that's why a natural healthy diet is always better. But there's a very strong case that you inherit what your parents had, but sometimes you just get acne because you get acne. Being a dermatologist for 25 years, there are a lot of tips in the trade. One of the things is good skincare to cleanse morning and night, which really is wash your face morning and night. The reason you do that is you get rid of dead skin cells, makeup, sunscreen that can clog the pores. Start off with an acne range, cleanser, and acne cream that can help, often over the counter. So it might be something that contains a glycolic acid, it might contain benzoyl peroxide, and then you get into the prescription products. So you may need to go to your GP, and the GP will pick a treatment for you. So it's very much an individualised treatment. Have you had problems with your outbreaks before?
Yes, mainly on my cheeks
Yeah,
and
a little
chin.
bit of pitting there. Well, we all want to get better yesterday. That's the big deal. And we all want instant. So sometimes you have to say to people, this may take several weeks. Hopefully you'll start seeing a difference in the first 6 weeks. But certainly if I put a patient on treatment, I want to see that they'll be 50% better in 12 weeks. That's my goal. People think, I've had this condition, nobody can do anything more. And that's really sad for me, because the patient comes in and says, I don't know why I'm here, I don't think you can do anything for me or offer me anything. And that's not true, because we've got a whole army of things we can use. Reach out for help, because there's a lot of great help. There is always a good, safe, effective treatment. So don't think that you're going to suffer alone, because it can be turned around completely.
Well, Hindsy, there is no getting around it. Having a face full of acne just makes you feel dreadful, and even the smallest pimple can feel like a mountain on your face.
And look, while Dr. C interestingly said that our genes can play a part, some people just get pimples, whether you eat well or not. Isn't that right, Rach?
What did you do when did you ever get pimples? Or?
Oh, I used to put this really harsh cream on and it used to sting, and I remember thinking, I cannot wait for my pimples to go. What about you?
Mum and I would put toothpaste on my skin.
That's right.
I don't know where that comes from.
The whole face?
Exactly,
Oh, my
yes.
God.
Don't know where it comes from, but these days, thankfully, there are incredible tools to help you management. So, Hindsy, have you heard of the Effaclar spot scan?
Tell me more.
The French pharmacy brand La Roche-Posay brought together a group of dermatologists to analyse thousands of images of people with different skin types and levels of acne. So from that data, you can diagnose your own acne with spot scan, which is accessible right via the website on your smartphone.
And am I right that this technology allows you to pretty much take a selfie and it will scan for pimples, blackheads and any spots that you've got, and it will read that and then give you a personalised skincare routine?
Exactly. So how amazing is technology these days?
Oh, I tell you what, I wish this was around when I was a pimple-faced kid, that's
exactly.
for sure.
And accessible, as I said, right on your mobile phone via the Spot Scan website. How good is that, Darcy? I mean, your kids are around that age.
Well, I've got one turning 16 in a couple of weeks' time, so right in that zone, Ray. As you said, it's a tough age, isn't it, when your skin breaks out, and some more technology that could help. I mean, Gerald's always been a good-looking rooster. Told me he's had no problems at all. Right from the start.
No, and just, the pimples passed me by, Darcy. It was just nothing to it.
Well, that's about on that note. That's all we've got time for this week. Thanks to Rach, thanks to Hindsy, thanks to Gerald. As always, go to our website, houseofwellness.com.au for more info on any of the content from today's show. And don't forget to tune into the House of Wellness radio show every Sunday with Gerald sitting with me on the couch, always featuring that. The lovely Rachael Finch is on the cover of this week's magazine. A great article too, Rach.
How good is that?
Absolute ripper.
I shot that winter cover in the middle of summer, so it was full on.
Well, you wouldn't know. Go get a copy of that. And thanks always to our friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you next time on the House of Wellness.